I, 25M, have been considering divorcing my wife, 34F, for over a year now. The problem is that I'm fixing her papers. I'm gonna try and keep this as short as possible, but basically my wife is extremely toxic and always refuses to own up to her mistakes. It started small when we dated, but the situation has only escalated. Unfortunately, I made the huge mistake of marrying her and agreeing to fix both hers and her children's 8F, 15F, 16M, papers. Process started in June 2019 and she agreed to do a voluntary departure, which took place in December 2019. On January of last year, she completely fucked up, which resulted in my feelings for her shutting down for good. What happened was that my brother passed away that month. My mother and I still haven't recovered, but I'm trying my best to remain strong for her. Anyways, that week was a very challenging week, both financially and emotionally. On the day of my brother's funeral, my mother got a call from El Salvador about her inheritance. She was told to travel there to sign some papers or whatever. So my mom had to go through the trouble of booking a last-minute flight, and she asked a family friend of ours to stay at our house that week to take care of my little brother. Wife did not like this and pretty much threw a jealousy fit over the fact that another woman was going to be in my house with me. The worst part? This woman is a lesbian. Literally nothing to be jealous about, but my wife insisted and even brought up the devil and these other fucking dumb excuses. Keep in mind that this all took place after my brother's funeral. This was the last straw for me. I couldn't believe that she chose that same week to berate me about something that wasn't even in my control. I told her she was being selfish and that she didn't even care about how I was feeling due to my brother's death. I should have tried figuring out how to divorce her and cancel the citizenship process, but I just wasn't in the right place mentally, so the thought didn't occur to me. And it just got worse from there. Every few weeks/months, it was the same thing. Wife throws a jealousy fit, I get pissed off, she tries to switch things up/justify it. Fast forward to last month. I was at the store when she texted me about needing money. She told me she needed it to go to her daughter's paternal grandmother's funeral. I told her I wasn't comfortable with her going to see that family despite the unfortunate circumstances, especially since they never even helped her with her daughter. She told me she understood, but about 20 minutes later, she admits to me that she was already on her way over there when she asked me for money. I was livid and asked her why she hid the fact that she was going from me. She tried coming up with several excuses and justifications, like always. I told her there was no excuse for it, but she kept saying that everything was fine, and even told me she did nothing wrong just because she went back home. Basically, she was once again refusing to own up to what she did. Now, not only am I out of love with her, I am also uncomfortable with being in this marriage. If she was willing to hide something like that from me, who knows what else she's hiding. I'm sick of everything and I want it all to end, but unfortunately, as I stated, we're in the process of getting her papers fixed. Not only that, but her kids are involved in the process too, and despite how their mother treats me, I don't want to take away something that could benefit them. They have nothing to do with how she acts. So how do I handle this? Should I just cancel the citizenship process and try divorcing her, or should wait until the process is over? Too long didn't read. I want to divorce my extremely toxic wife, but I'm fixing hers and her children's papers. How should I handle it? It's not your job or responsibility to fix her life while she ruins yours. First and foremost, you need to think about you. You tried, it didn't work, time to move on. Divorce her and cancel her papers. If she cared as much as you, she would at least make an effort to keep things healthy or at least bearable until her papers were done. But she is choosing to be selfish and toxic because she probably thinks she can get away with it, and so far she's been right. Stop wasting your youth on this person. You are way too young to be dealing with an almost decade-older undocumented woman with kids who doesn't respect you and doesn't seem to even appreciate the fact that this relationship is going to fix her status. I know it's easier said than done, and you are torn because despite not being in love anymore you still care. You sound like a great person, but just know that this paper stuff isn't going to be done and over with anytime soon. These papers could still take a year, maybe more. Don't waste your precious youth, because once she gets her papers you've wasted your time. You will split up and she will move on to be with someone else, as will you, but you will probably resent her for having to deal with her toxicity while you were fixing her legal status. Actions and words have consequences. It's time for her to face them. Cancel the papers and divorce her. It's her responsibility to look after her own children. I had to read most the post to figure out what these papers were. Just stop with the process and divorce her. She doesn't sound like she's worth any more of your effort. If you sponsor her and her kids' green card application, you are on the hook for financial support until they all become citizens. Even if you are going to divorce her immediately after the green cards are granted, the financial sponsorship to all four doesn't end there. If any one of them end up receiving government benefits based on their income while holding green card, the government can and would most likely come after you to recoup the amount of benefits paid to them. She doesn't have money for a small trip right now while depends on you. Then, when she moves out, being a single mother of 3, she will apply for food, housing and health insurance assistance at the very least. You will end up being the one who has to pay for all that. It's going to sound really cold-blooded, but they are not even your kids. You will greatly regret this when you have a loving wife and your own kids that you cannot support because of some lady and kids you no longer have connection to. I know this because I was the sponsor for a close family member's green card. The person I sponsored did get their green card in 2019, and shortly after they did, they showed their true color and I know I was used. My partner was also the co-sponsor, so now we are very nervous about their behavior and don't know when they would apply for booker benefit claims and when the government would knock on our door. It honestly was the worst mistake I've made in my life. Never thought that person would have hurted me in any way, but they did. If the green card application hasn't been approved, you should get out and let the woman deals with her own kids. Don't be in my position, except yours would be much worse since you would be sponsoring 4 people instead of just 1. All the best. This is a really unhealthy dynamic for everyone. Why are you and your spouse living with your mom and sibling? In any case, as an immigration attorney, my guess is your situation is more complex than you realize. So many variables to consider: how long you've been married, if she's a green card holder, if she had a K-1 visa to get married, if you've taken steps for her to get actual citizenship, did you have to sponsor her, will you have to sponsor her kids? Long story short, I don't think it's going to be as easy as just bringing the kids over and divorcing her, or possibly even just divorcing her. You should talk to an immigration lawyer in your area and make sure you fully understand all options. My coworker, 45M, often interjects his opinion on my 27F soon-to-be wedding. My fiancé and I have been together for 10 years and decided to tie the knot this upcoming summer. I have this coworker who doesn't listen at all. It's his way or not at all. My coworker, Jack, has assigned himself to be our florist after overhearing my conversation to my friend. He mentioned that he used to be a florist before working at our store. I never asked Jack to be our florist. I've politely told him no, we already have our flowers arranged. He asked where we're getting married. I told him courthouse. He gasped and acted all dramatic about it and muttering that it wasn't romantic enough. We haven't talked since then. Now, since it's Valentine's Day, Jack brings up the flower thing again since he was working the floral section in our grocery store. I told him again that we already had our flowers. It was in one ear and out the other. He kept talking about how he was excited for my big day, and the flowers were gonna be so pretty, etc. I've walked away and pretty much haven't said anything about my wedding to anyone because this guy just doesn't get it. I'm fed up and have been avoiding Jack because that's all he wants to talk about. I've told him no so many times. What else can I do? Too long didn't read. Co-workers obsessed with flowers and won't stop mentioning about his job in our wedding. Just make sure he does not have full information, date, time, place, and that no one who does will give him the information. Less he knows, the less damage he can do. No more discussion about any details with him. This is good advice. A friend arrived at her expensive restaurant party to find the color scheme and flowers completely changed because the manager thought a controlling and kooky acquaintance had permission to do so. Yeah, just never talk to Jack about your wedding ever again. Change the topic, don't even invite him. Avoid him. Seriously, that's so weird of him. I've had similar experience. I've invited coworker A, and there are other coworkers from my department invited. But she still wanted to bring coworker B as A+1. I didn't invite B because she's not from my department and I have no budget to invite the entire go. B is great at baking, so somehow A just told B she should bake for my wedding without asking me, and B got excited too. I had no budget to pay B, and of course I don't want her to bake for my wedding for free. Due to other reasons, A dropped out of the guest list. Thankfully, just treat it as him being weird, because wow, he is, while still saying firmly no every time. Wow, I can't believe you're still hung up on my wedding. Just drop it already, and then change subject to something work related. You can say it in a haha you're such a funny guy voice so it doesn't sound as aggressive, but the script is 1. Name the behavior, still talking about your wedding. 2. Name the change you want, just drop it. 3. Change subject so it's harder for him to keep discussing it, and also so he has a way to save face by engaging in a work-appropriate subject if he so chooses. Any more discussion about it will just give him a chance to argue his point, and you don't want that, because you clearly can't reason with him. You can find some inner peace, and keep walking away from conversations you don't want to be a part of. You can keep saying no to Jack, but you already know that won't work. Jack is either a bully who thinks he can weasel his way into something by making himself unpleasant enough, or he just isn't playing with a full deck. Either way, you don't have to play along with a bully or an idiot. There is no contract and there will not be. You've told him he doesn't have a florist job. Sounds like you've told him in earshot of others. Or golden. You just keep on walking away. Don't tell anything else about the wedding to anyone. Ask others to not tell him anything about the wedding either. Talk to your vendors and make sure no one but you and your fiancé are allowed to change stuff. Also make sure to set passwords with them. That means that you need to give them the password to change anything. It's to prevent others from changing things without your consent. Make sure you do that last one to the florist, explain them the situation and ask to report to you if the guy calls in trying to cancel their services. Keep walking away. If you want, you could try talking to the person in charge of both of you and ask them to talk to Jack to back off. Check with your HR if it's possible to just make a report, but ask them to not take action yet. HRs can do that apparently, but ask to make sure. This way they'll be aware of the situation and will only interfere if it escalates or you ask them to. This could protect you if Jack tries to report you for excluding him or something else. Good luck. I, 23F, am very in love with my BF, 22M, but he has started to repulse me in bed. So I have been with my BF for 2 years now. We started off as a casual FWB type thing, though he didn't have much experience to begin with, but I still appreciated his company and effort overall. When we had first started seeing each other, he told me he had trouble keeping an erection as he had come from a year dry spell. I had still been very sexually active up to that point and never took it personal. When we began dating, slowly we were able to improve the sex by a lot, and even though sex wasn't always satisfying for me, I was glad we were having it at all. Our sex went from bad, to good, to really good, and now to shit. One of the issues is that he never listens to what I like despite me trying to guide him. I'll guide him and it'll feel great, then he tries to put his own spin on it and I have to stop him because he starts to repulse me. Eventually I stopped asking for foreplay and I mostly just let him have at me when he's in the mood like a rag doll. Every time I try to guide him he never listens and that's exhausting on my end. I can only get off by touching myself and I can tell that my lack of sexual interest is starting to hurt him. We've tried Viagra, toys, watching porn together, roleplay, you name it. At this point I feel disgusted when we try to have sex. I've stopped enjoying kissing and really any sexual act with him. I am not repulsed by our relationship, we have a good relationship and we're able to communicate. He's very attractive, I get turned on by his appearance. He's both a day I fucked up inside and out. We are quite affectionate with each other, just no sex, and love each other's company. He knows I'm repulsed by sex with him as we try to resolve our differences, but every time it requires requires effort. He does very little to meet me in the middle. I want to be with him for the years to come. We want to have children in the next 2-3 years. But I can't get past the disgusting feeling I have when we try to have sex. We aren't in a position right now to afford couples counseling, and it's a really bad time to do so as we're in a pandemic and services are limited. Would anyone have insight or advice? Has this ever happened to you? Were you able to get over it? Too long didn't read. I feel sexually repulsed by my BF, but very other aspect of our relationship is good and I don't know how to get over it.